Hello Year 7 and welcome to your feedback video for this week. As you will probably remember, as part of your remote learning, I will be providing weekly feedback on the work that you completed in the previous week. Right, so this feedback focuses on the knowledge that you covered last week, mainly focusing on that quiz that you completed last Thursday. So we're looking at the work that you completed between the 18th and the 22nd of January, okay? So first of all, just a quick note here about completing the quiz. Please do make an attempt to complete the quiz if you can. Not very many of you managed to complete the quiz last week. All right, if you do need some help to do so, please get in touch. And I will say as well, sometimes on certain days you have the lesson as well as the quiz. And I know that you're only supposed to spend an hour per lesson. So what I would like you to do on lessons where you can see that you have a quiz there that you need to complete, I want you to make sure you save 15 minutes at the end of your hour in order to complete that quiz. Okay, even if that means you don't complete all of the lesson content, that's fine. All right, I'd really like you to have the quiz completed because then it's a really good way to show me what you do and don't know, so I know what we may need to recover. Okay, so on Thursdays, when you're not usually set the quiz, make sure you just spend the last 15 minutes of your hour completing that quiz, okay? As many of the questions as you can. The next thing to do is to celebrate. Thank you to those of you who did complete the quiz. And the top score was 7 out of 9, so well done to that person. I won't name you, all right, but I'm sure you know who you are. So the next thing I'm going to do is just have a look through the answers that you left for the quiz, all right? So let's bring that up. Remember, we were focusing on what is poetry, all right, and the poems that you looked at last week. So first question here, what type of a poet was William Wordsworth? And well done, all of you got this correct. He was a romantic poet. Now remember, one thing to remember is that it's not romantic as in the sense of love, Valentine's Day, all that sort of stuff. No, the term romantic more refers to the style of writing that took place at the time. All right, we're very heavily focusing on nature and sort of God and the power of nature and things like that. So you're all correct as well in ensuring that you selected the option with the capital R. All right, because as you can see, there are two versions of a romantic poet there, but one of them has a capital R, and that's important because, again, we're not using romantic in the term to describe how the person was. We're using the term to describe what the person did, what type of style the writer tended to take when writing their poems and whatnot. So well done. Number 2, which of these is an example of an evaluative adverb? All right, and the correct answer here is effectively, and I'll look at this in more detail in a moment and explain why that is, okay? Number 3, which of these is an example of correctly punctuated speech? This one is another one I'm going to look at in a minute because I'm aware that many of you picked this answer, and this is the one that I would be inclined to actually agree with more. It's still not quite correct, but again, we're going to visit it in more detail in a moment, okay? Number 4, which is an example of correct use of apostrophe for contraction. Well done, all of you that answered got this one correctly. All right, you put couldn't with the apostrophe between the N and the T because what that is doing is signifying that a letter is missing. You've combined the words could and not, and you've gotten rid of the O. All right, so that apostrophe signifies that there are letters missing. Number 5, what is metaphorical language? The correct answer here is language that is figurative. Okay, it's language that is not literal. You're not describing the obvious. You're not describing what is in front of you. You're describing something literal. And again, this is something I'll cover in more detail in a moment. The next one here, which of these is an example of metaphorical language? Well done, 4 out of 5 of you got this one correct. Okay, the next one, the fog comes on little cat feet. Okay, because the fog doesn't actually have feet, or cat feet. All right, so we're using figurative language here, all right, describing the fog as having these little feet. Number 7, what is tenor? The correct answer here is the thing that you want to describe, all right. Tenor is one of the terms we use to describe a part of a metaphor, and this is something else I will go over in more detail shortly. Okay, so for those of you who did get that one incorrect, please do pay attention to what I discuss later on. And similarly, what is the vehicle? All right, the vehicle is the imaginative idea that you want to compare the tenor to, okay. So where some of you put the thing that you want to describe, note that is the tenor, all right, and the imaginative idea is the vehicle. Number 9, which of these is an example of a metaphor? And it's the first one there. She was a dog rose kind of girl. She's saying she was something that she's not. She's not a dog, okay? That kind of thing. So again, you're using figurative language to describe something. And then when it comes to this last question, why do writers use metaphors? I'm going to look at this in more detail in just a moment. So let's bring us back to the PowerPoint. Okay, so let's begin having a look at some of the things that I could see we might want to revisit based on your quiz answers. The first thing is to look at evaluative adverbs, okay? So just maintain this awareness here that an adverb is a word that modifies the verb. It explains how the verb is done. And when it comes to evaluative adverbs, you're using an adverb to evaluate how well perhaps something is being done. All right, so I'm going to take this sentence here that doesn't contain any adverbs yet. She cleaned her car. All right, we can see that the verb here is cleaned. So we know that she cleaned her car. Okay, but what we can do, if we include an evaluative adverb, it can allow us to explain a bit more about the situation and also describe how well this verb took place. We know that she's cleaning her car. We can now talk about how well she's cleaning her car. So I'm going to choose to include the adverb from the question here, which is effectively. All right, she cleaned her car effectively. So what I'm noting there is that she cleaned her car very well. You could also put in other words such as, you know, she cleaned her car terribly. That would suggest that she wasn't doing a very good job. All right, but these evaluative adverbs are allowing you to just add that little bit of extra information. Okay, I will note that if you are to put an adverb at the beginning of a sentence, such as here, effectively she cleaned her car, you would put a comma after it. But in this instance, with this sentence, it makes more sense to put it at the end, which is why I have. Okay, so again, evaluative adverbs, adverbs that tell you how well they're doing the verb. The next thing to look at is correctly punctuated speech. Now, I'm aware there may have been a little bit of confusion with what might be the correct answer here. All right, so one of the options that the quiz gave you as an answer was let's go to the cinema with a full stop there and then a capital H for he said. And I think that's the one it noted as the correct answer. However, I would disagree, all right, and I'll tell you why in just a moment. This was the other option that many of you selected, which I would probably say was the better of the options. Let's go to the cinema, he said. The correct way to punctuate this form of speech, which is what we've looked at in class before as part of our Mastery Monday sessions, is let's go to the cinema, comma, he said. Okay, so open speech marks, the speech is depicted, and then because you have he said at the very end, you need to put a comma after the end of the speech, close your speech marks, and put he said. Okay, so this would have been the correct way in which to punctuate the speech. The next thing to look at, what is metaphorical language? Okay, so we know that a metaphor is figurative language that compares one thing to another by saying it is another thing. Think of that example I've used before when I say that, you know, if I turn to you all and say you're all stars. Of course, I do believe that, absolutely, but you're not actual stars like the big glowy fiery things in the sky. Okay, what I'm using is figurative language to describe you. But just being aware of what figurative means. We know that a metaphor is figurative language. So figurative means departing from the literal use of the word. Okay, so you're not using the word literally. Okay? For example, if you were to describe somebody as being green with envy, they're probably not actually green. All right, but you're making that link to the colour because it links to sort of jealousy and envy and that sort of thing. So you're using the language figuratively. You're departing from the literal use of the words. But carrying on with metaphors, then, I'm also going to make a quick note about tenors and vehicles, which I know you would have covered last week. Okay, so the terms tenor and vehicle refer to different parts of a metaphor. Okay, the tenor is the thing you are describing, whereas the vehicle is the figurative language you use to describe the tenor. All right, so let's have a look at my example again here. You are all stars. First of all, I'm going to identify my tenor. My tenor is the thing I am describing, and in this instance, it would be you. Okay, that is my tenor. The next thing I need to do is find the vehicle, and I know that the vehicle is the figurative language you use to describe the tenor, okay? And the rest of my sentence there would be the vehicle, right? Because I'm comparing you all to stars, all right? That is the language I'm using to describe you, okay? So this is the key thing to remember when it comes to metaphors, all right? If you're looking for the tenor, it is the thing being described, and the vehicle is the thing it is being described as, okay? And then on to the last note for today is just to consider, why do writers use metaphors? Why do they decide to include them in their writing? Writers often use metaphors to help describe the scene, event or experience they are writing about, and they help to express deeper meaning, complexity, and they add to add appeal, okay, to make the writing interesting. Which I know is one of the comments that was on there, but it is much more than that, which is why I wanted to cover this again. Metaphors usually allow a reader to imagine the scene, event or experience being described. By comparing the thing they are describing to something the reader should understand, a reader can, a writer rather, let me just edit that. A writer can appeal to the reader's imagination, and this can help engage them in their writing, okay? So again, metaphors are just really, really useful techniques. Again, they help to build that image in the reader's mind, and you can help to influence how they feel about things sometimes, all right? If you're aiming to describe a really sad scene to make the reader feel a particular way, that's one way of doing it, okay? But again, metaphorical language can be really powerful when used effectively. But this is what we need to consider. This is why writers tend to use metaphors, okay? Just to make you all aware. Okay, that's all for now for today's feedback video. Well done on all the work you've been submitting. Please do keep up the good work. And as a note there, please do remember to complete the quiz next week. Like I said earlier on, next Thursday when the next quiz will likely be set, please do save those last 15 minutes of your hour to complete the quiz. All right, I think it's really, really useful to do so. It allows you to show what you've learned. It allows me to check what you've learned. Okay, and it's a really nice way to tie off your lessons for the week, your English lessons. If you need any help with it, please do get in touch and I will do my best to do so. Otherwise, that's it from me. Take care, stay safe, and your next feedback video will be up again next week. Bye.